You're listening to the Yoga Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Land. This podcast brings you information and resources to enhance the therapeutic effects of your practice based on a deeper understanding of anatomy, physiology, and the integration of modern science and research with traditional practices and experiences. Join me and my co-hosts Tiffany Cruikshank and Katya Bach as we dive into all things yoga, research, and wellness. Hello and welcome, or welcome back to the Yoga Medicine Podcast, and to this, the first in a special bonus series focused on all things 200-hour teacher training. This is a really common time to start thinking about the year to come, about your goals and the direction you would like life to take for you. And if that thought process includes the idea of yoga teacher training, but you don't know if you're the right kind of person for it, this episode is for you. It is a short excerpt from episode 103, Teacher Training Myths with Dana Diament. And as you'll hear, we are both firm believers that the yoga world needs a wide variety of teachers in order to connect to a wide variety of students and a wide variety of applications for the practice. And right as this episode is releasing, we are also opening registration for Yoga Medicine's online 200-hour teacher training for 2026. It runs from April through June, and right now you can access a deep discount of $500 off the regular price from now until December 2nd. Right after signing up, you get access to the first 2 blocks of content from January, subsequent blocks of content each month after that, and our weekly real-time Zoom calls commence in April. So without further delay, let's see if we can answer the question, who is yoga teacher training for? And if you are somebody who can do handstand and do the splits, and you are somebody who meditates for an hour before you do anything, great, fantastic, but they're not prerequisites for doing a yoga teacher training. And you also mentioned a couple of others that I thought were really important, like you've got to be an extrovert, you've got to be a people person. Thank goodness you don't have to be, or I would not be teaching. You've got to be, really comfortable standing up in front of people and talking. You've got to be funny, or you've got to be, ultra serious and really thoughtful and yeah, whatever you have in your mind of what the yoga teacher trainee should be, the reality that both of us have experienced is you can probably throw that away because all ages, all sizes, all walks of life, all cultural backgrounds and religious backgrounds, all physical ability levels, all personality types are not just welcome, but I think necessary. Because if you want to create an experience for students that's varied, you need the teachers to be varied too.
Yeah, and I think when you do show up to a yoga teacher training, you do meet a variety of people and all different kinds of personality types. And you don't have to be that, bubbly, charismatic, ultra friendly, funny person. You can be more serious, more introverted, whatever. You could be whoever you are. And I think that, what I love about our teacher training program, the yoga medicine one, is watching the students actually go through this transformation of acceptance and going, oh, I can be myself when I teach. I don't have to change myself, or I don't have to be like, this person that I really admire. Yeah, I can say those, awkward, goofy things, or play my loud music, or whatever it is that, makes them
leave long periods of silence. We talk about this a lot with the teacher trainees, don't we, about there being a sort of spectrum in terms of energy and kind of level of volume and enthusiasm that you bring to teaching. And everyone, I think, needs to have access to some variety so that when there are moments in the practice that you want to be a little bit more quiet or thoughtful, you can turn the dial down. And when you want things to be a little bit more invigorating or motivating or energizing, you can turn the dial up. But we've all got the spectrum starts and finishes in different places. We don't want to turn out a whole bunch of yoga robots. If you're naturally a little more even keel in your energy, that's fine. That's great. People will be drawn to that. We'll still be aiming to teach you some skills that give you some options within your range, but you don't have to be the same as the person on the other side of the spectrum who's full of energy and enthusiasm and, puts a lot of pizzazz into their speech.
Yeah.
You just need to find your voice. And for each of us, that will be unique.
Yeah, and it's important, as you said, there's so many different styles of yoga, that are out there, and each one, like you can think of yin yoga, for example, is going to somebody who's more calm, might be a really great yin yoga teacher, right? Or if you think about a really dynamic vinyasa class versus a more like evening, slow flow, chill, you're going to want different vibes. And some of us gravitate towards more of that dynamic, vibrant, really, a louder, more booming voice versus someone who naturally speaks more slowly and more softly and more calmly, right? And those are reflections of our personalities. So and everybody comes to yoga for a different reason. They need something different out of the practice, whether that's kind of more broadly speaking or even just day to day. There's some days where like, oh, this person, this teacher has that nourishing aspect that I really want today. And tomorrow, maybe I just want to go to that person who's going to give me that boost and pep talk kind of vibe. So I think it is really important that we're not turning out these yoga teacher robots, but that we give people the space to explore and discover through the training program, like what are my natural gifts, what are my natural strengths, and I always just say like let's focus on that, on your natural abilities, rather than trying to work on your weaknesses. And obviously, at some point, we need to make sure that your skills are up to par,
Yeah.
and we want to create that really great foundation. But in terms of the flavor of your class,
Mm.
like be yourself.
I love that because that's truly the only thing that you'll be able to do sustainably. I've tried on a bunch of different hats. When I was quite new to teaching, I covered a lot of classes and I would always go to the teachers' classes to get a feel for what their flavor, I love that phrase, what their flavor is, what their style is and mood is. And I would try to do my version of that when I covered their class so that it was a sort of, you've come for something really energetic and upbeat. I'm going to be my more energetic and upbeat self. You've come for something that's a little more serious. I will aim to be my, steadier, more serious self. And it was a great way for me to sort of explore my edges and to figure out what cost the most energy versus what felt the most natural. And for me to teach, 17 classes a week or 20 classes a week, for me to teach for 10 years or 12 years or however long it is, there's no way I could spend all of my time being something I'm not. I really needed to figure out what comes from me the most easily and naturally, what requires the least effort in terms of delivery, not in terms of, planning for the class and paying attention when I'm there. You've got to be able to find your voice and teach to that, because there's no other way that a long-term role as a teacher is going to be sustainable. You'll burn yourself out.
I think everyone can relate to that point. Like it's exhausting not being yourself. You can even
Yeah.
think of like if you're in a social situation and you're just not being yourself. I think everyone can relate to this, I think, on some level of just that feeling of getting home and just being like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And the same thing happens when you teach. If you're constantly trying to be something that you're not, because you have a certain like, I think going back to the point that we're trying to make is that you think you need to be a certain kind of person to be a yoga teacher. And and that's exhausting to try to fit into that picture that you have in your head, rather than like one of the things that my current business partner at the yoga studio said that she loved about me was when I first met her, I said to her, look, I eat meat, I drink alcohol, and I curse, and that's me, so that's who you're getting into business with. And she was like,
Deal with
great.
it or not. Yeah, I do think that's really important because we haven't even talked about the idea that you've got to be, a peace loving vegan, which, again, if you are peace loving, great. I love peace too. If you're vegan, good for you. I appreciate that level of commitment to people's values. I think that's wonderful, but you still have to be who you are. And like you, I eat meat. I like coffee. I swear like a sailor. And so, for me not to do those things would require a lot of effort that would make the job unsustainable over the long term.
Yeah.
You can do anything for a week, but I do think a really important phase of teacher training is kind of testing things out and figuring out what are my strengths? What are the things that I can kind of draw on and
Mhm.
lean into? And sure, what are my weaknesses? I'm going to work on them a little to make sure that I've got a well-rounded skill set, but where's my comfort zone so that I
Yeah.
know where I can stand and sort of stretch myself from?
And I think one of those skills you mentioned already that I want to bring up again is that, getting up in front of a group of people and the public speaking aspect of it, which many people probably don't do in their, let's say, current jobs or day-to-day lives. So it can be, or they haven't done it, they haven't stood up to like talk in front of people since maybe they were in school
Mhm.
and, forced to deliver this, speech. But I think teaching yoga is so different to that. You don't have to do a dharma talk, a philosophy talk at the beginning, and it could be more about the instruction, which I think is really different than what people probably have in their minds as public speaking. And everyone that we've seen, that we've trained, the transformation from the beginning to the end, like the more you do it, the better you get at it. And again, it's something that should be emphasized quite a lot in a teacher training program, that opportunity to just get the words out of your mouth.
Yes.
And I was really one of those people I was terrified of standing up in front of a group of people. And when I share that now, people don't believe me. People that have been to my yoga class, I suppose, they don't believe me. And I'm like, no, it's really true. I have this very vivid memory. I was in Brooklyn. I was just getting really serious about yoga. It would have been like 2009, and the teacher walked in the room and she just had this presence about her, and she started talking from the moment she walked in the room, and everyone just straight away just like sat up and listened. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I could never do that.
Oh, I love that story. That's what my teacher trainer was like. He was a man with enormous personal magnetism and charisma. And when he spoke, people would listen. And believe me when I tell you that I have to turn the music up as loud as it goes to get my students to shut up and listen to me at the beginning of class. Yes, Millbrook, I'm talking about you. So you don't have to have this immense personal magnetism. You don't have to have this, politician style charisma, because the key of it is it's not a performance, it's a
Right.
practice. And really, the only words that need to come out of your mouth are those that invite people into the practice and create a container for some inquiry and exploration. And you might be surprised how little you actually need to say to get that
Yeah.
job done. It can actually be
Yeah.
much less a kind of presentation and more just step this foot forward, ground down here, hug in here, rise up. Now, feel your breath.
And I think too, these days what people are looking for more often than not is someone who will hold that space for them to give themselves permission to back off
Mhm.
and be curious and explore. Does this feel good today? Does that feel good today? Just I think it's interesting actually in that sense of reflection, like people are wanting permission to be themselves, right? So the more that you give yourself permission to be yourself as you stand up there as a yoga teacher, that's what's going to have people gravitate towards you. That's what's going to build your class. And you do that as you give them choice, as you know that, let them know that you're there for them, and in whatever words you choose to say. And then you don't need to be this incredible, like, you don't have to be super duper eloquent or poetic or metaphorical, or you could use quotes that other people said if you want to bring that element into your class. So yeah, I guess I'm just kind of reflecting on just this interesting mirroring that is what really makes that yoga class so gives it that magnetism.
Thanks for listening to Yoga Medicine. If you liked the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you got something out of this episode, please spread the word and share it with a friend. You can find more information, articles, trainings, and classes at yogamedicine.com. Check us out on social media as Yoga Medicine, or you can email us at info@yogamedicine.com. Thank you for being part of our Yoga Medicine community.
The content of this podcast is not medical advice and is not meant to replace medical care. Please consult your healthcare provider to determine what is best for your unique healthcare needs.